Hey everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. It's me. You know who I am. I am Fiorella. Yeah, I don't do the pasta thing. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch, and this is Pasta Jardula. I love pasta, but you know, We're like two totally different people. So I guess YouTube decided not to give anybody notifications, so I'm gonna hold off for a second until we get more people in, because this discussion is a lot more deep than what it seems. I'm not just obviously gonna talk about the tired old battle between progressives and, well, between these people who call themselves progressive, right? I no longer call myself that because I think it's not, they don't represent what I am or who I am. But it's more about what's actually happening here. Not just the unmasking of AOC, the squad, and a lot of these progressive commentators, but also the greater picture that is talking about the Green New Deal and what it really is, and the Great Reset and all of that. Because as usual, I got attacked for going to this Better Discourse event, and I was just on Slow News Day, by the way, and they're still going. But they had their 300th episode anniversary, and so like I'm giving them a shout out for that. They have been going on for a while now, and they're awesome, and they are one of the best shows out there that just doesn't get enough eyes on them. So I'm definitely gonna say that. And they had this whole a bunch of us on to just talk about different topics. Obviously everybody has their own opinion on things, but it's nice to always have those interactions. Now, as you know, I always say on this show, and so does Pasta, that we will speak to people we disagree with. And by the way, please get on the Rokfin if you haven't already. I know there's a lot of people live right now, so oops, oh well. We never go this late for a specific reason, but we had a lot of things to do today. Like I said, we're making a lot of changes as far as how we're conducting the show. So anyway, I'll get started, I guess, right now, that the people that want to watch are going to come on later. But basically, what I wanted to talk about was the Better Discourse event and what that was for me, and like all the attacks thereafter and what it means. So I went obviously to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and it was this event that was organized by several factions of people with different ideologies, and they bring in people from the left and people from the right and libertarians and all these other kinds of people to have discussions on topics, right? I would have loved to see topics addressed, including censorship, including the election integrity issue, like voting machines, all of that. I could have done even better on those topics, because those are topics I often talk about, as well as imperialism. That would have been great. Connecting the immigration issue with obviously our regime change wars and our foreign policy, all of that. But the topic that I did speak about was the Green New Deal. One thing that I didn't dive deep enough that I would have liked to would be nuclear energy, and that would take a separate, panel. But I spoke about the Green New Deal from attacking it from the left, actually. And a lot of people might disagree with me on that and think that I'm just attacking all these progressive agendas because it gets me clicks, when it actually doesn't. Actually gets me the opposite. It gets me demonetized. It gets me shadow banned. It gets me completely just called out by both ends of the spectrum, whether it's the right wingers or whether it's like the neo-progressives, faux leftists. Like, they always come after me, specifically me, more than anybody on the team. I'm obviously the most vocal. I'm also, there's all the other elements that I'm a woman and I am also a minority. So they don't like minorities who don't regurgitate the same Democratic approved talking points. And I've said this many times, I'm sick and tired of being tokenized by the establishment for political points. And I hate people who weaponize their identity to do that. And that's been the entire squad who has done that. So when I talk about that, it comes from a place of truth. I'm not just saying that because I don't like them. Initially, I supported the Green New Deal. People think that posting my tweets saying that I like the Green New Deal is like a win, when it isn't. I supported the Green New Deal, first of all, when it was a Green Party legislation. I thought that they were going to take that legislation, pretty much revamp it and say, okay, that's what we're going to do. Bernie Sanders was the one who supposedly was going to do that. Then it became this like completely entirely just debunked myth, right? When I started seeing what the AOC marquee Green New Deal was, I'm like, wait a minute, like this doesn't make any sense. And a lot of the Tulsi supporters were the ones who pointed it out, with pointing out that Tulsi Gabbard's All Fossil Fuels Act was way better, which by the way it was. And by the way, it also addressed fracking and like addressed things on a big picture scale compared to the Green New Deal, which is a non-binding resolution. The Green New Deal also doesn't address imperialism. And that's a really big part of it. One of the biggest factors in the destruction of our environment and the causes of immigration, mass migration, are war. It's not just the weapons and the fumes and all of that. It's the whole thing itself, like the whole machine. And if you're not addressing that, then you're not really here for the environment. And by the way, if we are for the environment and if we do want to stop the impending death of this planet we live on, why are we being dishonest? And why does it matter which brand gets to be the trophy, right? Why does it matter which one wins? Why does it have to be the Green New Deal? Why does it have to be called that? Like, why can't it just be called something else? Or why can't we try something different? Why does it have to be only what these progressives and these Democrats deem is acceptable? Like, to me, it just shows you that it's not about the actual issue of saving our oceans or saving our animals and life itself. It's about, how are we going to rebrand this so we can get more of these corporations to back us? How are we going to rebrand the Sierra Club? Guess what? Let's create the Sunrise Movement, right? And rebrand it as the Sierra Club. Now, this is a rant. I'm not going to go into specifics on this video, but I will later on. Like I said, I want to bring on other people. People have given me their suggestions who to bring on regarding the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I know we've had Whitney on before. I would love to have her on again. And, there's all these people that I want to bring on to discuss these things because they've done journalism on it for years, at least 2 years ago, before any of this is now being discussed in more of an independent mainstream level. But when I'm attacking the Green New Deal, I'm not saying that I don't think climate change is important. I do. I think it's being weaponized, however, by the Democrats with a certain degree of knowledge that what they're doing is actually going to privatize nature in its entirety, privatize the environment, and everything we love about the idea of environmentalism is completely dead. Another thing that's not being discussed is the just erosion of our planet because of big agriculture. Now, I'm not telling people that they need to stop eating meat, because there's a lot that's a personal thing, right? Like if I'm not going to tell you you're a piece of shit because you eat meat. Like, I'm not going to do that. The reason that people get turned off from veganism is because some people act like that. I think it's a personal choice. Personally, for us, we have done everything we can, and it's not without fault. Like, sometimes we are at a restaurant, whatever, we don't we try our best, but it's this idea that I think we could reduce the consumption, but it's much bigger than that. It's this idea that the government subsidizes big agriculture, and they literally go and they pay these people to do what they do, to keep producing and producing and producing. And it effectively ruins the environment. And I think a way to tackle that would be to actually reduce and to expose just how corrupt the institution of big agriculture is. And there's a documentary on Netflix right now, I believe it's on Netflix, that's talking about that. And there's also there's just so much you can learn on that, and that is also not being addressed by the Green New Deal or any of these people that claim to be pro-environment, like the Sierra Club. They refuse to talk about it at all. there's all of these things happening to privatize and corporatize everything we do, whether it's what we eat, whether it's what we ingest via vaccines or via big pharma, whether it's just what you watch, who you talk to, and all of these things are being weaponized, not just on the ground through politicians and legislation, but through big tech and through these giant social media platforms that are now pretty much just taking your data and using it as a currency, right? These Black Mirror episodes that people thought were just fiction a few years ago. No, we had the robot police dogs. We have just DARPA's hands in everything. We have the vaccine discussion is so much deeper than what we're allowed to even say, not just on mainstream media, but on YouTube now. You cannot say anything regarding that. In fact, I probably shouldn't be talking about it because who knows? Like, it's just ridiculous. And it's things that you get from journals, from straight up journals. Like, it's we've come to a point where if we can't freely express, even question a mere just idea, we're not living in a free country. And I tell this to people who like to criticize China. Like, you can criticize China all you want, and yeah, they're no innocent angel by any means, but hello, like, we're talking about like authoritarianism and fascism encroaching every factor, every sector of our society, like everywhere we're at. And like, to me, this is like one of the biggest things right now. It's like one of the biggest hurdles that we have to go across, is the ability to question, the ability to not discount things just because they're coming from you, because you don't know, or because you've never been approached with this information. Like I said, I supported the Green New Deal until I realized it wasn't what it claimed to be. So guess what do? Oh my God, I shift my perspective and I say, oh, okay, well, I'm not supporting that anymore. And guess what? I don't fucking support it. It's not that difficult to actually have consistency, because that is consistency. It's not being consistent to stay in one place and not shift your mindset. That's being completely disingenuous and inconsistent. And I see that in a lot of independent media, where they're literally saying the same thing and giving people the same type of solutions, like, oh, if we just elect 100 more AOCs and Ilhan Omars, then we'll eventually take over the Democratic Party and then everything will be fine, because it's not the whole fucking system you're looking at. So you're looking at this one little layer. And first of all, that's not going to happen, because as you've seen, every single time you elect any of these people, they turn around and stab you in the back and completely forget on everything they ran on, right? And so when we're talking about these new ideas to many people, right, which haven't been new for some people who have been talking about them, like the Great Reset, like, people get so like, what is that? Like, that sounds like a conspiracy. And it's because of the propaganda that has been completely just so, they do this well. This is what they do for a living. And it's deployed not only in the mainstream media, where it's expected, of course, but through the pseudo-independent media. That's not independent media. You know, the TYTs, the Sam Cedars, those people who pretty much just constantly regurgitate the same mainstream media talking points, but say a couple of progressive keywords to get this whole like, ooh, yeah, like, we're criticizing them, but don't offer further analysis. Because if you are going to analyze politics, it's not as simple as just wagging your finger at mainstream media and saying, ooh, like, that's bad, they're lying. It's like, what are they lying about? Why are they lying? Like, what do we have to gain from watching this video or reading this article? If we're not debunking it, if we're not exposing how it relates to the bigger picture of what's going on behind the people in power and these mechanisms, then what are we doing? Right? Like, what you're just like getting people like riled up to be angry, but you're not offering them anything beyond that. Like, why is this happening? And I think it's our job, if you're in independent media, to educate our audience, to not just think that, you know, like just being angry or being like upset at something is going to fix the situation. And like, I have a way of doing it and others have different ways of doing it, and that's fine as long as you fucking do it. As long as you do a service to your audience. And when you do that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get a lot of people who fucking hate you for it because you're being honest, because you're being genuine in your exposure of what's actually happening, because it would be easy to not talk about these things. I could literally go and become an AOC sycophant tomorrow and just be embraced by all of the DSA, all of the boutique left, and be like, oh my God, yeah, she saw the light. And, you know, and she saw that we can just build back better and we need to get all of our vaccine shots and we're all gonna, there's no questioning Big Pharma. But please, yes, we've consistently talked against Big Pharma because they control our healthcare and these insurance companies. But on this occasion, they really do truly care and want the best for us, because that makes logical sense. So I could do that. Or I could go on the other end and become Cassandra Fairbanks and consistently shit on protesters and talk about how Antifa is our biggest worry and how communist China is going to come in Venezuela. And I could literally just do that. And that would be a great money too. But I don't do that because guess what? The truth is what the media was supposed to be. Whether we all have implicit biases, which we all do, right? We all have an ideology. We all have our beliefs and etc. So any person, any journalist is going to have a fucking bias, no matter how hard they try. But it is how you do. You can have your personal beliefs and then still conduct everything to the highest degree of truth. Right? Like, it has to be about the truth coming first, not your ideology first, but the truth. And so that's what we try to do here and what I've tried to do. And that's what gets you a lot of fucking trouble and gets you demonetized and taken off air and called a Nazi conspiracy theorist and all of these things. And by people, you know, right? Because I think it was Brianna Joy Gray that made a tweet that said, it's really sad, or she was upset that people were like, who she knows are now like tweeting nasty things at her. It's like, yeah, welcome. Like, that happened. Like, it's happened to me. It's happened to Pasta and I, who we have literally marched on the streets with some of these activists who all of a sudden think like, oh, because I didn't think Ashley Babbitt should be shot dead either by a cop, like I'm now supporting Nazis, right? Like, it's this whole idea where like, the emotions get riled up, and if you don't go with it, the group think, then you're cast out. And it's like by a lot of people we know that we've had in our homes, etc. And so it's like the consistency is in the fact that I don't believe police should have be judge, jury, and executioner in any sense at all for anybody. I don't care who they are. I don't care if the person committed a crime. I don't care if the person is the worst person in the world. If you can arrest serial killers and you can arrest people all the time, you can arrest 16-year-olds and you can literally just not shoot 13-year-olds. You can try to like take them, you know, in a civilized way. Whoever, like, that was supposed to be the point, to protect and serve. It's not to kill and then ask questions later. People get mad when I criticize the police, people who sometimes watch us who are of a different ideology. But then what is it? I go after the national security state. We're talking about Julian Assange, who's in prison for what? For exposing U.S. war crimes. Where the fuck is the difference between the military-industrial complex, the national security apparatus, and the police who do their bidding? Like, I don't understand that, you know, disclosure. The only thing that drives some of these people that feed off this culture war is money, because they can make money off of it. And so when people call us grifters when we're actually doing the opposite, it just proves to me that the whole system is set up to control and suppress voices of dissent, to make them out to be the bad guys, as we have been so told by so many people from before. The worst part, though, is that it's 10,000 times worse because we have the internet. and we have big tech. So everything accelerates tenfold. Whereas before you had newspapers, and then you had people doing on the ground protests and these movements. It took some time for all of that information to decimate, and it was happening on the ground. Now information decimates at a much faster rate and at an alarming rate that we can't even keep up with all the things that are happening. People ask me to cover this and that and that, and it's like we're trying to really like cover different things, and we're trying to go here and go there, and it's like overwhelming for a lot of people. People have had to take breaks from this work because it's like you are never off. Like, you're always online. So how do you break that mold, right? How do you like step back? And I think it's important for all of these people who are content creators to step back. And I think some people might be able to see the light when they actually do that. So when I did this event, it's not like I went in and I was like, oh, I'm going to leave my leftism at the door because I have to appease people. No, I was who I am now. I am who I am in person. Like, literally, like I didn't even know who Destiny was at all until I think the day before when Pasta had put like the debate with Richard Wolff, and I was like, who the fuck is this moron? Like, I don't understand like how liberalism hasn't been completely just pushed out. And the only reason I think it hasn't is because the right and the left, or for lack of a better term, the Democrats, Republicans, these people who feed into this, this team sport mentality there, shout out to Steve Poikonen, they work together to continue this, like, ooh, Republicans suck, Democrats suck. And then they continue to feed off of each other, so they continue to live and thrive off of each other, right? And so when you're coming at this from the black pill perspective, not from the blue or the red pill, but from the black pill, where you're like, fuck this, we're going to talk about what's really happening, you're wrong, half of what you're saying is true and half of what you're saying is true, then yeah, people are going to be like, what the fuck is going on? But some people might listen. And let me tell you, people there who were, some, I would say the majority were conservatives, but there were libertarians and there were some liberals. There were very few leftists. There were more liberals than leftists. But some of these people came up to me and they were like, hey, like, thank you for saying the things you said. And what did I say? Oh, I said, yeah, the Green New Deal is full of shit. It is a Trojan horse to corporatize everything in nature. It is backed by literally some of the worst psychopathic people in power. And if you're not going to criticize that, you're going to turn your head on that information, you're doing a disservice. People want the truth. In an age where we have all this crap of misinformation from the mainstream media more than anybody else, right? We had a woman who was talking about the Project Veritas exposure, and he wouldn't even hear it. He was like, no, the Project Veritas is bullshit and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, they have said really shitty things. They have done manipulative things, and their reporting is obviously now going to always be in question. But if you're not even going to look at it, and you're going to make a decision without looking at the content, I'm sorry, that is willful ignorance. You are being far worse than any of those people. And they exposed CNN. They did. And I will say that they did expose CNN. And they've done it before. And I'm not a fan of their ideology. I'm not even a fan of their work. But that woman, she made a great point to Destiny. Like, he couldn't even, like, he came out looking like a complete just complete, shit lib. Like, I'm going to defend my ideology above all else because a Trumper or somebody who watches Project Veritas can't be right. Like, not even once, whatever. Like, it's this idea that you have to pick a side to be on. And those of us refusing, those of us calling it like it is, saying that all politicians suck because they're all going to disappoint you. Those of us that have come to the realization, it's like we see things from a different perspective. And, like, I was a Bernie supporter. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I was a Bernie supporter. And, like, I don't understand what is so different about me that I can be like, hey, Bernie's being a cuck now for the Democratic Party. Like, he fucking changed, like, his tactics. Maybe he was always the same, but he definitely changed the way he addressed people. So did AOC, so did all these people. It would be a crime for me to say otherwise, because that it would be just a complete denial of reality. And that's the world we're living in. We're living in a world where people are denying reality because they prefer to live in the fantasy that's been created by them by the system. Because seeing it for really what it is it would be just too much. And that's what we have to understand. That's where people are operating from. They would rather think that they could reform something than face the truth, right? So when I was in Kenosha, I was speaking to several people, right? I was speaking to an Uber driver, and she was really upset about the riot. Like she was really upset about the riot. She was really upset about what happened, right? What happened in Kenosha. She was upset about how her city was like destroyed. And from her point of view, it was a bunch of, radical people who were destroying the city, and small businesses got burned and all this stuff. From the point of view of the protesters, it was like, oh, the system isn't doing anything for me. So why the hell am I not going to do anything? Like, why am I going to obey the law? Right. And it's these talking points that I think are still being missed, because when you get the mainstream media news, it's all about what is the most just advantageous point of view. It's all about what is like, oh, like if I get Antifa and we blame Antifa, then the right's going to go after these protesters, and we can say it's white supremacy and vice versa. And so what we need to do is like actually get to the point of what is driving the unrest. What was driving the unrest? It's the fact that we don't have a system that is fair. We don't have a system that is just. And at the same time, we have people who are completely just tricked into falling into this whole culture war, where it's like you do have the reality that Black people are gunned down more by police than white people. You do. That's a reality. But at the same time, what happens is that there's this idea to politicize it and pretend that people like Maxine Waters, who have never done a goddamn thing for Black people or for minorities, and Joe Biden are somehow better than the alternative, which is completely false. And so it's the most difficult job in the world to completely just debunk both of these narratives and not get people pissed off at you. It's it's one of the things that I think is, I don't know, it's like I guess I must be somebody that likes self-mutilation, or I just don't know why I even do this, because it's like this is like insane. You're people don't see things. People in the majority of America don't really want to overthrow the system. They don't. They want things to be fixed, but they don't know how to fix them. So either they tune out, or they pick whichever side favors them the most. So the reason that happens is because we don't have access right now to having the millions of viewers that CNN does, that MSNBC does, that all these people do. And you will see the people that are propped up by the system eventually were always a part of it, or become a part of it, because that's the way the game works. And to me, it's this whole idea of progressivism under the guise of the Democratic Party that is far more damaging than the people that you see clearly, right? I see a Republican clearly, I know where they stand. I see a liberal clearly, I know where they stand. The DSA and progressives who want to fix the Democratic Party under the squad are, to me, some of the most destructive forces, because they seek to give this whole agenda to pretend that everything is going to be fixed in the system, within the system, and they want to make villains out of those who tell you the truth, that it won't be, that we won't vote our way out of this, that you are being a complete and total liar and a hypocrite for propping things up like the PRO Act. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's these people that I think are dangerous, because they make people believe, and influential people believe, that if you support them and you support DSA and you support progressives and you continue this whole game of electing your next favorite person to Congress or whatever, that you're doing well. You've seen the gaslighting of Biden, the videos we've made about that like it's all getting better, that we're electing more progressives, but you're not. The reality is the system is getting worse. We're accelerating this entire takeover at a much higher rate than ever before, a much faster rate. And that's what's actually happening. But they're there to distract you from the fact that it's happening. They're there to fucking literally put you back to sleep, but make you feel good that you accomplished at least, ooh, we have more DSA members now. So, oh, it's great. We're advancing, we're progressing. And it's all fake. And that's worse to me because you're being bought into an illusion of change, an illusion of progress. And an illusion is worse than facing the reality. Because when you at least face the reality, then you know what's really going on, and then you can go on from there. But with an illusion, you're basically going into the slaughterhouse and you're being tricked. And to think that you're going someplace beautiful, that is insidious. It's psychopathic. And these people have all, in case you haven't noticed, come at every single person that threatens that idea. That idea that all of this can be fixed through electoral reform. These people are coming at all of us who are doing this, calling us all kinds of names, and they're so unimportant that I don't care, as much about the name calling or all of that. It's more of the intensity of how it's happening, I think, leads me to believe that there is an absolute, some sort of agenda by the establishment to do this, because I think I tweeted it the other day. Malcolm X had talked about how the Nazis were like, how they were basically what I was trying to say before, I blanked out, was that Malcolm X and a lot of the civil rights activists, right, were compared to Nazis during the civil rights movement. They were compared to radicals. They were compared also to, of course, pushed as the being Russian agents. And they were actually telling the truth. They were uniting people across all through class, across race, and they were preaching what would be the future of the movement culture, right? They were going beyond the typical, let's just, have equality. It was like, oh, we live in a fucking empire. We're a product of imperialism. This is what's going on the world scheme. The moment you start attacking the national security apparatus and the military industrial complex, then that's it. You put a target on your back. And so all of the work that went into framing them as being these radicals and even comparing them to Nazis is happening again. It's happening now with a lot of people who are exposing the truth, who are actually not playing games and simply telling things like they are, like Glenn Greenwald, who has been doing a lot of that, like other people, other journalists like Whitney Webb, all these people that have been doing a lot of great work on exposing what's really happening behind the scenes and the hypocrisy on the political spectrum. And it's so easy to call all of us fascist or fash or red brown and all of these talking points. But what's more difficult for them to do is to deny that what we're saying is false. So they resort to ad hominem attacks. They resort to, let's discredit the witness. Let's discredit Fiorella. Let's say that she said that the elections were unfair. Well, yeah, they were unfair. This election is one of the most corrupt. We have a corrupt election system. There's no transparency. You can't prove to me on either way that our elections have been fair. And so what they do is they'll screenshot a tweet, right? Where I say, the cabal of elites, where I'm quoting the Time magazine article where they literally admit that, yes, a cabal of elites did manipulate. They admitted it themselves, but in a way where it's we're discounting what Trump said. But what we're saying is that a bunch of media people, prominent influencers got together and manipulated the elections. Literally. That's in a Time article you can read. So they take that and they act like I'm saying like that a cabal of elites weaponized the election. I'm like, no, actually the Times said it, but I mean, for lack of a better word, yeah, they they did. I mean, I don't know what to tell you here. Like this is like the election is just so, like, if you believe that we're an empire that goes around overthrowing governments all over the world and you still believe we have a democratic election, I don't know what to tell you. That makes no logical sense whatsoever. And that we jail journalists, by the way, for exposing war crimes, and you think we have fair elections, I don't know what to tell you. But as far as the PRO Act, right? We did a whole video on the PRO Act. We brought up the World Socialist website's critique of it, which I agree with. I again, just like the Green New Deal, the PRO Act, to a lesser extent, right? Because the Green New Deal has more corporate backers. It's far more powerful because it includes economics. The PRO Act it's just a way to get people on the, progressive Democratic left to say, oh, like, they're trying. Look at the Biden administration. He's backing unions now. Wow, they're going to give us the power back. They're going to give the people a voice back. We're going to get workers to, like, unionize. This is the most influential and important piece of legislation since the 1940s. This is amazing. Oh my God. Look, Biden is being compared to FDR now. Like, do you not see how that is exactly what you're supposed to think? You're supposed to think that Joe Biden is somehow going to completely just ignore the 48 years of where he has been anti-union, like anti-labor, completely anti-workers, anti-people. You're supposed to ignore all the policies he has passed, the fact that he wrote the crime bill, the fact that he wrote the Patriot Act, the fact that he was just a pro-war on every single level. Ignore all of that. Ignore the fact that he's backed by corporations, that he's backed by big tech. Ignore all of that. Joe Biden is going to get unions into this country to go back to the way it was when unions had power. Like, no, if you listen to it outside of the punditry that happens on the fucking shitlib left, and on mainstream media, and you look at things objectively and you look at the legislation, you see that it actually does nothing to implement changes that would be required to make something like a wildcat strike legal. A wildcat strike is a strike that is legal, would be legal, that you would do, like you as a union member could do without the approval of union leadership. And they won't do that because they can't, because the whole point is to make unions into little corporations that are equally as corrupt as the company itself. That's the whole fucking point. You think Joe Biden's going to make a deal? It's going to put something on his desk that doesn't serve his interests? Whose interests do you think he's been serving for the last 48 fucking years, to the point where his approval rating is actually low, and they're milking it. They're like, oh, it's better than Trump's, because that's all they have. And of course, now I'm an anti-union, anti-labor right-winger for criticizing the beloved DSA PRO Act, the act that, oh my God, is putting DSA's name on the map. Do you think the fucking Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment are going to allow any legislation that actually does anything for you? Do you really, just because you ask nicely? Are you fucking stupid? Like, why would you think that? Why would you, what past policies of Biden's, of Democrats, of Republicans, of the establishment have led you to believe that they are willing to do something for the American people? Please let me know, because I haven't seen that in decades and decades and decades. In fact, this country, like I said on the Fred Hampton Leftist show, was built on the backs of slaves. It was built on stolen land. Why do you think we continue to operate like an empire? We're a fucking empire. Understand what it means when I say that we're an empire. Understand what it means to be an empire, and to know that that is who we are. And maybe understand that in wanting us to stop being an empire is going to require you to stop pretending that it's not like that, you know, we're not the bad guys here. Like you have to accept that. Like this country, this not the people that live in this country, but the people who govern it, the people who control it, the corporations who move it along, the big tech, all of these people, like those are the people that are never going to do anything for you. They see you as a nuisance. They see the 99% as a nuisance. They want to weaponize you as data so you can do the bidding for the empire and for the very 1% of the 1%, for their predator class, for their elite class, whatever you want to fucking call them. There's nothing elite about them. They're just complete psychopaths, and that's where they're going. They're going to this notion where you are just basically there for their existence, and there's never going to give you anything through electoralism or through the election of supposed people who are going to go in and reform the party. They're going to give you the illusion of that, but they're never going to give you that. And again, I go back to, well, what is the solution, Fiorella? The solution is to not fucking play this game anymore. It's to actually have direct action that exposes this. It's to have independent media that touches on these subjects that nobody's talking about, not just on the empire and what they're doing, but like the agencies of the empire and what they're doing and how that relates to everything down to what your local city council is doing. That there's no separation between the national security apparatus and the police that are there, like destroying your civil liberties. Like, if police are destroying protester civil liberties, and if they're destroying journalists covering the protester civil liberties, then guess who's letting them do that? Who's letting them do that? It's nobody else but the people in power, and people have yet to make this connection, and like some of it is because they're choosing not to make that connection, and others are because it's profitable for them not to make that connection. And it's okay to criticize the beloved PRO Act from the left, or from whatever you want to criticize it from. I'm doing it from the left. I think it's bullshit. I think Biden's not going to sign anything that's actually substantial for workers, because he never has shown me any indication that he would do that, because he's backed by corporations, because he's a fucking piece of shit neocon. That's why. And if you want to bet on Joe Biden against me, sure, go ahead, bet on Joe Biden. Think that he's going to solve your problems for you. Think that the mainstream media's brainwashing and gaslighting of his presidency, like it's so amazing and better, and that these institutions that have been formulated to keep any sort of insurgency, any sort of real revolution from happening, aren't doing that. They're literally, that is their job, is to keep you satisfied and asleep enough that you're not bad faith actors who literally attack us day in and day out because we tell the fucking truth. And it doesn't matter how many times you respond with logic, with receipts, with like actual source data, because that's the agenda isn't for that, the truth. The agenda is for the illusion, and we're living in an illusion. And those of you that see past that illusion, that are out of it, think you're crazy. You're like, is this really what my fucking life has become, where I'm like a fucking, like I'm living in a reality where all the mainstream media is gloating on how wonderful Biden is, and then you have people like TYT and these idiots who, you know, like David Dole, that like defend their job is to just defend and do PR management for the for AOC, the squad, all of Congress, and all of Congress's job is to do narrative management for these industries, for big tech, for big pharma, for the CIA agencies. Their job is to just, all of it is just to fucking manage these fucking narratives. That's all their job is. And that's the reality. I don't, like, it's so obvious to me, and I don't understand why it's not obvious to everybody besides the usual, like everybody's overworked, underpaid, and they want to live in this illusion. What I want to know what we can do to continue exposing this, because what I saw on that panel was people were exposed to my ideas that thought that I would be different. People thought that I was going to be another AOC. That's not what I am or what I was. And I think people need to be exposed to those ideas. This is why I agree to talk to people who may not agree with me. And I love doing that. And I think we need to have more of that. We need to have more of these panels happening. We need to have more of these things happening, because if we don't, nobody's ever going to have access to these discussions or find solutions to these things. And that's what I really, really fucking loved about that event. It was all of that. Absolutely. And I think it's important that we don't trash on people who are different, but I think also I'm not going to change my ideology, or I'm not going to change my moral beliefs based on who I interact with. And I hope that's really apparent to everybody that I'm not going to do that. I don't plan on ever doing that. And I have a super chat I'm going to read. Jim Garrison, nice to see you, Jim. Fee, I would say you are nailing it and looking fantastic while you do it. Thank you, Jim. And that scares the shit out of the 1% and even the 10%. And now see the light. Gonna stand up for what is right. Bob Marley. Thank you, Jim Garrison. Yeah, I think people are intimidated, but they're also scared. I think a lot of what's happening in this country is fear. I see fear in operation, like whether it's about the vaccines, whether it's about you thinking that Antifa is going to attack you, or that China's going to attack you, or that Russia's going to attack you, or whether it's thinking like the government is everywhere. But that is a legitimate fear, because the government is fucking us royally. Did people forget what happened? That they didn't give you guys money? By the way, another thing I want to point out that I was listening to from people who are living in the area of Kenosha, and also when I was in Florida, was people are have closed down their businesses, right? This is what we talked about, Potts and I, during the pandemic. A lot of these businesses are not coming back. And there's like the housing has gone down a little bit, the cost of rent. And then you see just more and more people saying, oh, so-and-so doesn't have a job, or they were laid off, they were still looking. And people are trying to find ways, new avenues of making money. All of that's happening. That's showing me that we are in for a recession. We are in for it worse than what it's been. And what they do to offset it is obviously they fund Wall Street, they fund banks, etc. But that's only going to go so far, because we are truly, truly fucked. Like, not just like on, the level of the national security and the fascism it's employing, but also big tech and all of that. But in addition to that, the economics of things, how people are going to become dependent on corporations. That's the whole point, is for these sectors to control everybody and force them to abide by whatever it is. So now it's like, oh, you have to abide by vaccines. You have to take your vaccine. You have to show that you took your vaccine, put it on your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram, be happy about it, conform, don't question. It's for the better good. It's so you don't kill my grandpa. It's so you don't, it's all these things that they weaponize people for. And they're doing this, and it's gonna get worse when it comes to education. The whole thing, it's not that education isn't already privatized, but it's going to be privatized tenfold. And then you have even the military draft. Like, there's a demand for females now to be part of the draft, because it's unequal. How about we don't have a fucking draft, and how about we fucking defund the Pentagon? But okay, fine. Like, you wanna continue this whole game, because if we did all of the things that the whole agenda, right, is of progressivism, if you wanted healthcare for all, if you were gonna get a Green New Deal, if you were gonna get all these things, It wouldn't do anything though. You could get all those things and you still wouldn't be in control, and they would still be lying to you, because the issue is systemic. The issue is no longer, oh, if I get this, then everything will be fixed. No. And by the way, I do want healthcare for everybody. That should be, I don't care. Like, that should be a no-brainer. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the same people who are fighting for healthcare for all against Big Pharma all of a sudden trust it when it comes to vaccines. It doesn't make any sense to me. And like, my point is that the issue is so far gone, right? That even if we got healthcare for all, you see what's going on in the UK. You see what's going on in the European Union. Many of these countries have healthcare for all, but they're still suffering the measures of like the austerity of just this whole like COVID pandemic that's like still continuing. They're saying, oh, well, there's another virus, there's a third virus and the fourth virus, and no, there's new types of shots you can get, and now they're like, this is the new way. That is what the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution is about. Nothing will ever be the same, actually, is where we're going. But you can't allow that to happen like just freely. You can't just say, I'm going to conform and I'm not going to say anything. Like, it's not feasible. It's not something that is it's not something that I think many people are going to allow to happen. And I truly hope that everybody understands that what it's going to require all of us to have more of a sense of urgency, not just like, oh, like, you know, people like the economics of it, but also like the fascism of it all. Like, we are living in an Orwellian state. We are living through this Orwellian state, and it's scary when you realize that that's what we're living in, right? It's scary when you know that that's what's happening, and you see so many people just kind of like, well, I can't wait to, you know, I go to a Dodgers game and I guess I have to get a vaccine for that, but that's okay because it's for the better of everybody. And it's this idea that they weaponize our feelings. They weaponize your empathy. They weaponize all of these things that make you good about being a human, right? Like, you want to help people out. You want to do the right thing. You want to make sure that you're not hurting other people. But these people aren't like that. These people think the opposite. They weaponize, manipulate, use every accessible weapon that they have to crush any sort of freedom for people. One, two, they do it to gaslight and to make you think that you're doing the right thing by not questioning, because a population that questions too much is a population that will rise up, and they don't want that. So shut that down. They crush voices of dissent, because people who listen to crazy radical voices of dissent are going to know too much, and they're going to disrupt my whole agenda. And it's not a conspiracy to talk about what that these agendas are. It's not at all a conspiracy at all. And the reality is, conspiracies exist, like actual conspiracies exist, because people don't trust in the government. They don't, and they shouldn't. And if you want people to trust in the government, then don't fucking screw them day in and day out. And that's why people have these sort of crazy, outlandish takes. That's why Q is a psyop, because it worked. It worked wonderfully to get people to hate on each other, to become FBI informants, to just continue like forget all of the shit that the Democrats did, and to think that Trump and all of these people are all 75 million people are all white supremacists, because that is perfect. It just gets you guys fighting each other. And that's it. And nobody is looking like, oh, well, what about these people? Maybe we shouldn't be relying on the fucking FBI to investigate anything at this point. Like, no, at least it's the FBI. It's not the cops. I mean, this is where we're at. And I have a hard time figuring out how to get out of it, right? And some people are saying in the chat, abolish the police. Okay, I agree with abolishing the police, like, because of what they are. Like, who are they serving, right? But guys, it's not going to fucking happen. It's not going to happen. No matter how you demand these legislators, you demand your mayor, your governor, they're not going to fucking do it. Not at the federal level. They're not going to do it. Maybe you could try to accomplish something at a local or state level, but I really, it's still, the federal government is far too powerful. But they're not going to allow that. You know why? Because the empire needs the police to police you. That's what it is. Like, you cannot say you want to abolish the police without going after the fucking Pentagon, without going after the military industrial complex and saying defund the Pentagon, without saying we need to cut 100%, like not 100%, because nobody's gonna fucking do that, but like, let's cut like shit 50% of the military budget. Even less than that would have literally cured world hunger. We could have built homes for everybody. Like, forget that sounds like socialism. Forget about the ideology. Think about what's logically necessary. Think about what's happening in front of you. People have the tendency to look at what it sounds like. Oh, that sounds like, so communism. Oh, that sounds like a right-wing talking point. Oh, no. Why don't you look at things away from all of that and just look at what they are and look at the solutions and find and see what fits and see what can happen. Like, let's stop doing that. Like, defunding the police isn't going to happen unless we have some sort of revolt. And unless these people who want to defund the police understand that they need to unite and work with anti-imperialists who want to defund the Pentagon, that they need to unite and work with First Amendment advocacy groups who are fighting for Julian Assange's freedom, who are fighting for free speech and press freedoms. And none of that's going to happen unless those people unite with people who are fighting for, let's say they're fighting for economic equity, or fighting for the healthcare issues, so people have access to healthcare for free, and like are actually able to get that healthcare regardless, because that is a moral, empathetic thing. And none of that's going to happen if they don't unite with people who are actually want to do something about the destruction to our environment. Like, all of these things. And that's one thing I noticed at the Kenosha Better Discourse event, was that Destiny was trying to separate. He was trying to separate, like, oh, that has nothing to do with this. I don't know why she's talking about, like, the fourth industrial revolution and the Great Reset. Like, we're talking about climate change here and good jobs being created and all of these things. Like, what? Like, no, stop doing that. Like, all of this is fucking related. I'm telling you, all of it. Every single fucking facet of every issue you have is directly connected, whether you realize it or not. In order for a general strike or something of substance that really shakes this country to happen, you would think a pandemic or the idea of a pandemic would be enough, except that they instilled fear in people. It said, fear, don't go protesting because you're going to catch the virus and blah, blah, blah. And still people went out and protested. But guess what? Those protests too protests got completely politicized and co-opted by what? The Biden versus Trump war, right? And all of that happened. Well, guess what? Now Biden's in office. Fuck any excuse about Trump. I don't even want to hear his name anymore. I don't want it mentioned by any of these people. But Trump is fucking gone. And what people agree with, what people I've been talking to that aren't even paying attention to politics agree with, is that they don't want to hear about Trump anymore. Biden's in office. Like, hello, Biden's in office. I hope we can use this opportunity to show these fucking people that are still cheering for Team Blue and Team Red that it doesn't fucking matter. That it doesn't fucking matter. That it doesn't matter. New boss, same as the old boss. It doesn't matter. Because now they don't have that excuse. They can do all the PR they want. They can do all the propaganda. They can do all the mainstream media bullshit, narrative management. But if people start seeing through that, which I think they are finally, then they're fucked. And they're what are they going to do? They're going to come after your YouTube. They're going to go after every sort of dissident, right? And they're going to weaponize those who are accepting of this whole, socialist movement, that it's fake progressives, and they're going to weaponize those people to attack you and to degrade you. And you're going to have to suck it up and continue telling the truth, because that's all we have. We have our voice, we have our desire to fight, and we have the awareness that we're not alone in this fight. And I can't tell you how many people said that, oh, you make me feel like I'm not alone, like I'm not crazy. And you're not crazy. And no matter how many times we get demonetized or shadow banned or taken down by YouTube, and YouTube decides to just completely just hide our videos. Like, after one of the videos that I posted today, Fox News came on, or it'll be like CNN, or it'll be something, right? Something mainstream. It doesn't matter, because what matters is that somebody somewhere gets the information and gets to explore more on the subject, and then makes their own decisions and comes to a conclusion, and then says that to somebody else, and then that person says it to somebody else, and that's the route we're gonna have to go. That's it. That's what we can do. And we're going to continue, of course, doing direct actions, because here we walk the walk. We're not just going to sit here in a studio and not be on the ground. We're always trying to be on the ground. It's expensive to be on the ground, by the way. And it's not like monetary. Like, we don't get very much money at all from being on the ground at all. Like, we really don't. To cover these things, like, it takes a lot of money. So, like, all your help, of course. I hate the whole fundraising and all of that aspect, as you can tell. Like, even when we do super chats and stuff, like, I appreciate your support for me, but I never want to like demand it. I'd never want to have some sort of fucking telethon where other people have, where they're like, oh, please give us money here and there, and like, you guys do what you can, please, by all means, so we can be out on the ground more. But it's not about that. It's like, we're doing this, yeah, we're doing it for a living, but we're doing it for a living because if I had to go work another job, I wouldn't be able to do it as much, and it would just be a disservice to everything we do. Anthony Scannell. Oh my God, I gotta say that like pasta. Anthony Scannell. For these, quote, progressives to push for lockdowns, knowing full well that the government would not provide adequately for the people, kind of makes them fascist. In my opinion. In my humble opinion. Yeah, I mean, they don't realize that. Right? They think they're doing good. Some of these people have like good intentions, and some of them don't have good intentions. Some of them are actual operatives. So I've been paying attention to who these people are and what they're doing and their whole fucking agenda and all their bullshit. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of address that, because a lot of people were like, I haven't heard about the Green New Deal. I have a thread on Twitter that I will put in the video description that you guys can look at on all the articles that I recommend. And like I said, I want to have some of these people on to talk about these topics that haven't been talked about enough. I don't even know. We talk about it here. I think that'll be fine, but most people don't even want to talk about them on YouTube because it could get them demonetized, and I get it. A lot of the, lefty YouTubers, they do this for a living too. But guys, like, stop tiptoeing around this issue. Stop, because it's like that you're legitimizing that you're doing something wrong, and you're not doing anything wrong. You're being honest, and you're being truthful, and expand your fucking horizon. God damn it, expand your horizon. Like, it's just not that difficult to do. It's all out there. And if you want to talk to me before you go there, go fucking talk to me. I'll talk to you about it. I'll point you in the right direction. But we need to stop this whole fucking like tiptoeing around the big tech and just these people because we're afraid. Fear is a handicap. Fear is something that keeps us just completely from moving in any way. And we just can't let that stop us from anything. We can't do it. If we're in media, our whole fucking job is to expose these motherfuckers. It's not to be nice to them. It's not to just be soft or just be coy and sort of just beat around the bush. It's to fucking expose these motherfuckers. What's the point of independent media if you're not exposing those in power? Media was supposed to do that, actually. That, not like media in general, was supposed to fucking do that. The fourth estate, they were supposed to fucking do that. They don't do that anymore. They were the fourth power. Hello, they are a power. Like, in government, they have their objectives and their narratives. We need to regain that power. And we're only going to do that if, of course, you guys keep watching and fighting against this bullshit that of censorship that happens to a lot of us, right? Yeah, so Prime Cat, thank you for the super chat contribution. It's always appreciated on this solo couch. Pasta's on the phone. I can hear him from down here. He's on the fucking phone. We're trying to go to Arizona, guys, just to keep you updated on what we're doing. I've been going on for a while, so I'll probably head out soon. But we're trying to go to Arizona, and we're like literally the only left independent media covering the Arizona Maricopa County audit. You guys have known, if you watch us, we've been, going into it. Pasta's brought a lot of information in the last video on it. The way I look at elections, and I said this on Slow News Day, is I used to say I'm for election reform. I am no longer for reform because there is no such thing. I am for election revolution if we are able to establish some sort of decent sign of whatever democracy before we go down. Maybe, I don't know, but I am for having some sort of accountability to restart this whole thing, because I believe we're gonna have to restart everything. Like, I have a hard time thinking that we're gonna solve our election problem and that it's going to be fair and square, because the system will not allow that, right? But at the very least, in Maricopa County in Arizona, what's going to be happening is either they're going to have an audit or they're not. And if they do have an audit, and that audit exposes malicious manipulation or election engineering, aka election fraud, people will understand why a lot of us who study elections, who are election integrity activists, and who look at every facet of elections, whether it's the chain of custody, voter suppression, the machines, who funds them, etc. Why we are the way we are, and why we said the things we said on this past election. If Maricopa County does not go forward with the audit, and the FBI comes in, because supposedly the FBI can absolutely come in and take away these ballots and just take away the machines or do whatever it is they want to do, because you need to have this is 100% audit, and it's never been done before. This is historic. Then that'll expose why the fuck are they doing that. Right? It's not going to be as strong, obviously, as if the former happens, but it will still show people, like, look, the FBI is involved here. The FBI, who has killed more civil rights activists than anybody, of course, under the jurisdiction of the CIA. But this is what we're talking about. Like, if you think the police state or all of that has nothing to do with your issue, right? Look, the FBI can come in and stop a true democratic process of an audit from happening. That directly right there dispels any notion that those two things aren't connected. It just goes to show you that all over again. And I just want to say, I thank all of you guys who support us, in spite of you might not have agreed on how we viewed the election. And I don't mean to sound arrogant, but it's the vast majority of people who do not agree with us on elections don't know anything about elections at all. Zero. Like, it takes me 2 seconds to talk about black box voting, to talk about the chain of custody, to talk about these machines and who backs them and who funds them, and to talk about statistical anomalies, to know like if somebody knows what they're talking about regarding elections, right? Like I don't mean like, I just mean like, if you're gonna argue with me on elections or the Georgia Senate bill that was promoted as being the new Jim Crow, then fucking know what you're talking about, because I know what I'm talking about when it in regards to this like specific issue. So what like, this whole thing isn't being covered by anybody. Basically, if it's being covered, it's like, oh, here are these bad Republicans again trying to undermine our most democratic election, even though we still think Russia meddled in and had some sort of hacking in this election. Like, pick one, please pick one. It can't be both. So we're going to be doing that, and we're going to be, like I said, having Oz and others help on live streams, and Jonny, our merch is going to launch soon. We have awesome merch, guys, that it's you guys are going to fucking love it. Like Defund the Pentagon, fam mugs, like just fam pillow, like I don't know, like it's crazy. You'll see. You'll love it. We're going to have all these shirts, vegan, but we'll eat the rich. You'll see what they look like. It's really great merch, and I'm excited for that. We're doing a lot of things on the back end to keep this going, to keep us continuing to do what we do, and to do it even better, to continue providing even better. Prime Cat said, I'm okay if they use my donation for hookers and that's hilarious. Bubblegum douche. And you awesome folks are always appreciated. Oh, why you guys do that to me? You guys get so angry at me. Or like you know that I hate it when Pasta does this crap. When Pasta does his overwhelming, his little acting bit when he does the super chats. You guys just love seeing me get pissed off. But anyway, guys, so I've been rambling too long, but I think I wanted just to point out those things. I don't know what else. I did talk about the PRO Act. I talked about the Green New Deal. I talked about the Better Discourse event. I talked about the fact that we're fucked, and we live in an Orwellian state, and we have these dumbasses who continue just pretending that that's not happening. I talked about what else? Shout out to Slow News Day's 300th episode anniversary. And we'll be back tomorrow. Of course, we're gonna go live. We're gonna be talking about some things happening, and thanks guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you, and see you tomorrow. Convo out. Bye, guys.